Hello everyone, my name is Karen on Lifestyle, and this is my series on hand building with ceramic clay. Welcome. If this is your first time watching the video, I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please subscribe and share to all your friends who would like to find a new hobby. Today we're doing a wonderful project called herb strippers. I gave these away at Christmas and they were huge hits, so I thought I'd do it with you guys. I did not mention this in my video that I did on the projects that we were going to do, but these were such a hit that I decided to do them. I've got two different examples of them. I make them in sort of this round organic shape that has a place for your thumb. My friend Laura from Lou Pottery makes hers in a much more modern shape. They're a little smaller, and I'll kind of go over what these holes are for. The larger holes are for stripping kale. If you are a big kale fan, or maybe even collard greens or those kinds of greens, you'll know that you don't usually want to use the stems. So typically you're cutting and, separating them out. This, you can just put the stem through and gently pull, and it takes the leaf right off the stem. It's a great deal. The smaller one down from that can be for rosemary, and you can make these holes any size you want. Large rosemary, smaller rosemary requires a medium size hole. The smaller holes are for everybody's favorite thing to pick, and that is thyme. If you've ever had to pick thyme off the stem, you know there's got to be a better way. This is the better way. So we're going to make these today. They're really simple to make. I'll go over the process a little bit with you. I have already rolled out the clay, and to see that process being done, check out my hand building a bowl video, and that shows the whole process of wedging the clay and working it and rolling it out, but I've already done that for us this time. So what we're going to do is real quickly we're going to align the clay, which is a really important process, and I wanted to make sure I got this in. This strengthens the clay. It helps take any marks that are in the clay out. You should do it both directions. So we're doing this here. Just aligning the clay crystals. Sort of smooth that out as well. We're not worried about the edge today because we're not going to go clear the edge. At this point, if you've wedged your clay, you also may get a couple of little air bubbles in there, and you can see these. They just need to be popped, and then you can just work them, work the air out of them, and go ahead and use your rib and just work them out. I try and reuse my clay as much as possible. It's more economical that way and less wasteful. So we're just gonna align the clay here. Okay. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either free form, just make a shape with your pin tool or your knife, whatever you'd like to do. And then one of the best things to use to make the hole, I've got a set of round biscuit cutters or cookie cutters from the cooking store, and I just make the thumb hole that way. Many times if I find a shape I love, like this one, I will simply use it, knowing that it's going to shrink a little bit. Sometimes I'll give it some space around the shape happier with that. And then again. Now this thumb hole is really the only hole you want to make right now. Best not to make any more. The other ones you kind of want to do when the clay's a little bit drier. So here's 2 of this sort of organic shape. And then, if you'd like, you can use any square shape on the clay. You can use any square shape or any cookie cutter to make the rest of them. Let's do one that's perfectly round. It's kind of fun. Do one that's roughly large shaped. I'm going to do just a fun little take on that. So mine has, now you don't ever want to leave your pieces pointy, but you can work. I really like this round shape here. This one. Just as a guide. Okay. All right, now I've got these kind of rolled out and ready to dry. I'm going to pull the clay out. I will re-wedge that leftover clay and do something else with it. I don't think I'm going to put a thumb hole in this one. I kind of like the idea of it being sort of long. But what we want to do is we want to put these on a wear board. Sort of smooth the edges, get the dryness out. Because the edges, of course, are going to dry quicker than anything. I'm going to actually dull that point a little bit. Like this side. So for the largest hole, I really want to make it fairly big because kale has big stems. So I've used this plastic piece just like a cookie cutter. I'm going to take the little knob of clay out. So you see we have our first hole. And the second hole, I think I'm going to use, let's see, yeah, kind of trial and error here. I'm going to use this tool. This is actually made for making holes in clay. You point it in and then you twist and the clay either gets caught in this or comes out the other side. And in this case you'll see that there is a little bit of a, leftover clay on the back here. I'm going to really carefully trim that off. And we'll be able to clean it up once it gets a little drier as well. The thing about clay is you don't want to mess with it too much when it's fairly wet, because it just makes a bigger mess. So, you know, another thing that I use a lot is cocktail straws. When you're having a cocktail, save your straw. Ask the bartender for an extra one. Tell him why you're using it, and he'll be tickled. So this made a perfect time hole right here. It's very important not to get the glaze in these holes. Glaze expands as it is in the kiln, and it will completely cover the hole. So you have to be very careful to make sure there's no glaze inside the hole. This clay is food safe once it's fired to cone 6, so there's no problem with, you know, getting your food contaminated with the clay. However, if you do put glaze in there, number one, it doesn't have that rough surface that takes the herb apart very well, but it'll also may close the hole. So on this one, we're going to use this. We're not going to make a thumb hole in this one because it's going to be long enough to hold. And of course, you're going to want to do your own shapes and styles. Don't be afraid to get your holes too big. They will shrink as they are fired, both in the bisque firing, mostly in the bisque firing, and a little bit in the glaze firing. So make sure that your holes are large enough. This one almost looks too big for a piece of thyme stem, but believe me, it will get smaller as it's fired. Thanks for watching, you guys. Be sure and subscribe if you like this content. We'll be doing more and more projects as time goes by. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.